Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. This is the week 12. Week 12 look ahead lines. I am not in my normal house, as you can tell. I'm in the lovely city of Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm joined from just 3 hours away by someone I didn't invite to Louisville with me, John Breech, based out of his house in Nashville, where he has jumped the gun and put up a Christmas tree in his background, despite the fact that Thanksgiving hadn't even happened yet. What's up, buddy?
Brinson, Christmas trees are allowed to go up the Saturday before Thanksgiving. Everyone knows that, and everyone also knows early best bets 4-0 last week. I'm glad you clearly bet on all the early best bets so that you could afford that hotel room in Louisville and not invite me. Can't believe you didn't invite me.
Well, yeah, I did. I bet on all the. I bet the Bengals. And who else did you have? You've been hot. What's your record the last few weeks? Like you've been scorching hot.
Well, we've only been doing this for 5 weeks. 5 weeks, 12-6-2.
Well, I mean, we've been doing it the whole season, right?
Well, we've been doing the early best bets for 5 weeks. We've been doing this podcast the whole season, but we flipped
the early lines. Yeah, that's right. We only added. Yeah, so you're 12-6-2 on early. Like, man,
I'm telling you, man, it's you. I did these on HQ Tuesday mornings. Was whiffing every week. I jump on a show with you, and now I can't miss.
Right. Meanwhile, I can't get a bet right. Although, thankfully, the second half Bengals over did hit. Shout out to Money McPherson and Najee Harris for popping one in there as well. All right, let's get to the best bets. You know, as I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I wonder if the fact that I have 72 tabs open in Chrome is affecting the quality of my audio. Possibly, right?
Yes, using hotel internet, there's 100% chance that is the case.
Almost certainly. What is your first best bet? We'll do your best bets, and we'll get to my lines that I think will move. Give me your first best bet, John Breech.
Brinson, last week we mistakenly talked about Kirk Cousins playing in prime time. This week there is no mistake. Kirk Cousins is playing in prime time on Thanksgiving night against the Patriots. And as we all know, if there is one person you want to bet against in prime time, it is Kirk Cousins. It is, and not only that, not only are we getting to bet against Kirk Cousins in prime time, but he's going up against a Bill Belichick defense. I mean, we saw what happened to the Vikings on Sunday when they faced a good defense. I mean, the Cowboys just destroyed them. Kirk Cousins has faced Belichick twice in his career. He is 0-2, and he has thrown a total of 3 interceptions in those 2 games and averaged about 200 passing yards per game. So it's been ugly. I expect more ugliness. If you're giving me a chance to bet against Cousins primetime, I'm going to take it. I love the Patriots here as a 3-point dog to cover.
Yeah, I don't. We were wrong. I was wrong. I had the Vikings in this game. Like, oh, they're home dogs. Like they're 8-1. The Cowboys clearly a better team, a much more dangerous defense. And while I don't think that the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots defense probably not as explosive from a pass rush perspective as the Cowboys, and the Patriots offense not as good as the Cowboys offense, but 3 points here in primetime against Bill Belichick? Are you kidding me? This to me was one of the ones I isolated too that is going to move, and I think move down and get closer to a pick 'em. I don't think the Patriots will be favored, but like I think Kirk Cousins in primetime. Well, I mean, it's as simple as that, right?
It seems self-explanatory, right? If Cousins in primetime, you just get the ticket in right away to bet against him.
That's right. All right. Next up, you also have one that I think will move as well. The Baltimore Ravens laying 4 against. I'm sorry. Did I read that correctly? The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, you'd think the number would be like 8, 7, something huge. Like it was. I mean, look, they were favored against the Panthers, obviously on Sunday, week 11, 12-13 points, depending on where that line finished. And look, they didn't cover. And you know why? Because they walked through the game. It literally felt like they just kind of overlooked the Panthers, or the classic trap game where you're coming out of the bye, you're playing a weak team, and that's it. They walked through the first half, put just enough together to win. And so I don't think there's any way they overlook Jacksonville here. I think the Carolina game was kind of an eye-opener. And so you know what else I like about the Ravens is that they are really, really good at stopping the run. You know what they're going to do? Stop Travis Etienne, put the game on Trevor Lawrence's hands, and we know what has happened this season when Trevor Lawrence is responsible for winning the game for Jacksonville. So I like Baltimore a lot here to cover as a 4-point favorite.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, with that Baltimore Panthers game, there was a ton of wind in that game, and so it made it a little difficult for the offense to get going. You're not going to see the same amount of wind here. I I I think this line is going to move. I don't understand why it's 4. I think it closes at like 6. Maybe it's not a full touchdown because Doug Peterson off the Andy Reid tree. He's coming off a bye. It's
Ooh,
possible he could be an off the bye coach. I'm not totally sold on that idea yet, though. But I mean, Baltimore should get going in the run game here, and this is just a spot where I think Baltimore understands the implications of. Like you're right, they did feel like they slept off. It was like 3-3 at some point in that Panthers game late. I think they know that if they go out, they have to go out and beat Jacksonville because the Bengals, your Bengals, are starting to get cooking. Joe Burrow played fantastic, destroyed Ryan Wilson's Steelers on Sunday. We'll talk about that, of course, in the recap show. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, turn on alerts so you're notified when we go live after Sunday Night Football. But I think when you see what the Bengals have started to do, the Ravens know that they have the tiebreaker currently and the lead of the division. You have to beat Jacksonville. You have to show up. You have to be prepared. They're coming off a bye. They'll be ready too. They're a dangerous team a little bit. And I think this line moves towards Baltimore. I think it's like 5.5 or 6, maybe. Next up for you, Breech.
Next up, we have the Washington Commanders hosting the Atlanta Falcons. The Commanders only a 3-point favorite. Look, last week, one of my best bets was Commanders over Texans. Commanders were a 2.5-point favorite. What they do, they body slam the Texans into oblivion. I won't be surprised if the same thing happens in week 12. The Falcons are a much better opponent than the Texans, but look, the Falcons offense is completely dependent on being able to run the ball. If they cannot run the ball, they are going to struggle. Washington is good at stopping the run. Therefore, the Falcons are going to be a turtle who's upside down on his shell and just, waddling there and can't do anything. That is what I feel about the Falcons this week. So I like the Commanders in this spot. They've been one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They've won 5 of their past 6 games. They're only surrendering 15.8 points per game over the past 6 weeks. So I just think that you're going to only a 3-point favorite. I'll take them.
Yeah, they needed a Cordarrelle Patterson touchdown return on a. By the way, he set the record all-time most kickoff returns at 9 in his career. Needed that one after he fumbled in order to sneak by the Bears. Atlanta's a little tough, man. They're I think they're 7-4 against the spread now. Maybe 7-3 or 6-4. But they started 7-0. I know that, and they've been sort of back and forth. Like this is a team that wants to hang around. Washington, not exactly a dominant force, but Taylor Heineke, given the vote of confidence from Ron Rivera, who I think has probably been told by management that they don't want to give up a second-round pick for Carson Wentz, and so they're just going to play Taylor Heineke the rest of the year. Washington, of course, took care of business against Houston. This is a team that's, I don't know, kind of in the playoff hunt. I mean, Washington is now 6-5. They're just in the playoff hunt. They're not kind of in the playoff hunt. They're in the playoff hunt. And
playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
Oh, I like that new one, Billy. Good job. Good thing ahead of the playoff picture. I think I'm with you. I think I like Washington here as well. All right, what is your final early best bet, and why does it involve taking a team that we continue to just get burnt by?
Well, first of all, is I hate to do this to our producer, Billy, the resident Eagles fan of the podcast, now that Debo is gone, but it is betting against the Eagles. Philadelphia is a 6.5-point favorite against the Packers. And look, if you've watched the Eagles play the past 2 weeks, they lost to the Commanders, they beat the Colts, but 0-2 against the spread in those 2 games. And the one thing those 2 teams have in common is that they both play very sound defense and they both can run the ball. And I think the Packers also kind of have that recipe. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers. And so I'm not picking the Packers here to cover because of Aaron Rodgers. I'm picking them because I saw what they did to the Cowboys, where Aaron Rodgers only threw the ball 20 times. What they did was play the great defense, and then Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon kind of did the rest. So I see those 2 guys getting a lot of carries, and the Packers testing the Eagles to see if they can stop the run. And, the Eagles offense has kind of hit that midseason rut. I think they'll figure things out in a few weeks, but I think right now they're just in that lull, and I don't think they're going to be able to blow out Green Bay. So I like the Packers to cover 6.5. I don't think they'll pull off the upset, but cover the 6.5.
I think they're at least kind of live to pull off the upset. I mean, and that's not, it's almost like for a dumb reason that, they lost by 10 points on Thursday to the Titans. They really needed to win that game to keep their season alive. And if they lose to Philly, it's over. Like Vince Carter gift, it's over. And so for that reason alone, and that's kind of like a silly reason, but I think Rodgers comes out, looks sharp. He was really bad against Tennessee. And maybe he's washed. Maybe it's over. Maybe the season is done. If they lose this game, we can see Jordan Love the rest of the year. But I think we see Rodgers go in there, play well, and the Packers at least keep it close. And I agree with you. You can run on Philly. You can play ball control. You can force them into, like maximizing their efficiency on possessions. Philly's still a very good team, but the last 2 weeks have showed us that this is not the this is not the 2007 Patriots or 72 Dolphins. This is a team that can be beat with a little ball control. And if the Packers can do that and can run the football effectively, and figure out. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about here is if you take the Packers, like, can they stop the Eagles' run game? Because I'm not sure that they can. Maybe they load up the box, try and send on the Packers. Send on the Eagles, excuse me. I think they stay within the number as well. I like that as a best bet. Would not be surprised at all if that line moved a little bit towards the Packers. You are muted.
I don't think your theory of the Packers, one of the reasons you like them is because they're going to be desperate. Their season's on the line. I like that too. That's one of the reasons why I think this game is going to be close. And I think you could be right. They pull off the upset. And don't forget, this is prime time. We usually see Aaron Rodgers play a little better, although that wasn't necessarily the case against the Titans on Thursday.
That is correct. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we look at a couple more lines that we think could move ahead of week 12. So you can go ahead and get those lines in if you like a particular side. Coming up next. So my first line that I think will move, the Dallas Cowboys. By the way, I forgot how impossible this job is when you don't have two computers in front of you. The Dallas Cowboys -8 against the Giants. Look, I don't think that the Giants are suddenly exposed as, a team that is maybe out kicking their coverage from a record perspective and talent perspective, but clearly their record was indicative of what their roster is. The Cowboys, on the other hand, they might be a really good team. Like the Cowboys won't win the Super Bowl because Jerry Jones made some promise to Beelzebub way back in like '96 and said like, "Hey, listen, just give me this Super Bowl ring. I'll never ask for anything else." He claims it was a higher power, but I think we know it was a lower power given the whatnot. I think that I think they're a good team. I think the Giants are in trouble here. Vanilla Vic, as Saquon Barkley likes to call Daniel Jones, had a nice game, but the Giants feel like they might come back to earth a little bit. We talked about, what teams in the NFC can make a move in the playoff race. You need the Giants to come back to earth for that to happen. I think we could be starting to see a little bit of that. They're still a very good team, could still make the playoffs. They hired a great coach. They have a good GM, and the future is bright for the Giants in long term. But short term, I can see this Dallas line climbing above 10 with the way that they played against Minnesota.
Yeah, this is really a worst case scenario for the Giants. You're playing a Cowboys team that has beat you 10 of the last 11 times that you have played them. You are absolutely banged up, a lot of injuries on Sunday against the Lions, and you only get 3 days rest before you have to turn around and play on Thanksgiving. And then you also have Vanilla Vic coming off his worst game of the season. This was, as far he threw the interceptions. This, Danny Dimes turned into that turnover machine last year, and that's why the Giants struggling. And Brian Daboll kind of said, you know what, you got to be safe with the ball. And he hadn't thrown an interception since I think week 3. But nope, that's all out the window. So you got Danny Dimes struggling, injuries. Cowboys have been dominant in this series. So yeah, I think I agree with you here, Brinson.
Next one, I like the Denver Broncos -2.5 against the Carolina Panthers. Do the Denver Broncos stink? Yeah, probably. They lost to the Raiders for the second time this year. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're the only team that the Raiders can beat, Denver? Like, I mean, grow up. However, the Carolina Panthers, and I've repeatedly said this several times throughout the season, are a very, 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 very bad football team. They are not good. They have an interim head coach. The whole motivation of like, all right, we fired Rule, Steve Wilkes is in charge, has worn off. They kept it kind of close with the Ravens, but like as you said, Breech, it did feel like the Ravens were just sort of kind of playing with their food, not really like they could have blown the Panthers out. The Panthers had no method of scoring any points whatsoever, and Denver's defense is elite. The Panthers will not score at all in Denver. I probably would look at this under 235. The total is 35 in this game. I don't think they get there, by the way.
That's nuts.
I'll look at Charlotte weather real quick just to see if it's anything crazy on Sunday. No, it's gonna be like 61, 61 degrees. Just standard, late fall, early winter weather in Charlotte. Nothing crazy, but dude, Sunday, Thanksgiving weekend, a team that is like debating should we go back to Sam Darnold because Baker Mayfield can't play, hosting Russell Wilson, and like a Broncos team that's like not that interesting. That Bank of America Stadium is going to be empty. There's going to be nobody there. It's going to be a lifeless coffin kick crowd. And the Broncos should probably be laying like 4 or 5 here because Carolina is just not a good football team, and they'll be able to score enough on them. I think the Panthers team total under is a great look as well. There's no way that team scores more than 10 points. I like the under. I like the Broncos. I like the Carolina team total under. Fade Carolina buy Carolina at your own risk. I'm fading them and have been for weeks, and it's worked out pretty well.
Brinson, I don't disagree with you that there's no way the Panthers will be able to score more than 10 points, but I'm not sure the Broncos can score more than 10 points. So this is just like, this is a game I would stay far, far away from personally, just because.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it just for your eyeball sake. Like, it's going to be disgusting.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't put money on it because then I would follow it, and I don't want to follow it. I don't want anything to do with this game. I just stand with everything you said.
All right. Mention the Vikings -3. I think that moves down. Mention the Ravens -4. I think that moves up. And then finally, I think and look, I don't know. You won't be able to bet this everywhere, but the New York Jets are currently -4 at Caesars. I hesitate greatly to suggest backing the Jets as more than a field goal favorite in any situation. However, Justin Fields was clearly not right in the second half of that Bears game on Sunday. He was carted off the field. He was like riding a cart through the tunnels in the locker room, was taken, dealing with a shoulder injury. Like, the Bears are not a good football team. They have upside because Fields looks like he is the future, I think, in Chicago. Like, I think that's very clear. You sit in this week. If you lose to the Jets, who cares? You're not making the playoffs. Go improve your draft stock and make sure that nothing really bad happens to Fields. And I think if Fields is out, this line could get to like Jets -6. Or am I crazy to think that who is the backup in Chicago? It's not Chasey. Who is the backup?
I don't think you're crazy to think that this will get to Jets -6.
Who's the backup in Chicago? Trevor Siemian.
Your boy, Trevor Siemian, straight from Denver. No, I don't think that's crazy to think that it gets to -6. Because look, you think about how well Justin Fields has been playing over the past few weeks, but they're still losing. The Bears are still losing. They have lost 4 straight games. They have lost 7 of their past 8 games. They had that huge Monday night win against the Patriots where Fields went off, and he's been going up, but their defense isn't any good. And they're actually going to face a really good defense in the Jets. And so if Fields is banged up or doesn't play, you barely would like the Bears, even if Justin Fields was fully healthy. But with him possibly banged up and possibly not playing, it just feels like this is going to go way toward the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, if Fields doesn't, again, you probably won't be able to find it everywhere, but you might be able to find it some places. And if Fields is banged up and doesn't play, it's Trevor Siemian and a bad offensive line for the Bears, a guy who can't run, and a bunch of like receivers that really you don't want to be backing. So, and the defense is not very good. So while the Jets looked awful against the Patriots and Zach Wilson refused to accept any responsibility for the offense only providing 3 points, I think you have to take the Jets in the spot if you can find them early, because I think there's a very good chance that Justin Fields doesn't play. All right, that'll do it for us. That's the early Week 12 line look ahead. John Breech, Notorious Waiver. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure to tune in to the Sunday recap show coming up after Sunday Night Football. For Breech, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.